Hey, what's going on, guys? It's NeilMah here, playing for the Pittsburgh Knights this year. I play support, and this video is just going to be a short introduction to some of the changes in Season 7, and how I think the meta is going to change a little bit, given some of the map changes. So first, let's just go over a few of the map changes, and we'll explain some of the differences between Season 6 and Season 7, and then we'll go into the explanation of how these changes will impact the support role, specifically talking about how you're going to start, what gods you might be choosing, stuff like that. Some of the most important things for support that changed in Season 7 was the purple buff spawns now at 20 seconds instead of around 32 seconds, so that means that there's more time for invades to happen. So starting around dual lane is a little bit more important, because if you don't start there and the other support does, you might be able to get invaded, and then the other support could follow you maybe to the mid lane or something like that and have impact on the map. So the support having the purple buff spawn at 20 seconds is a big deal, because it'll likely make you start in dual lane a little bit more. Some of the other changes were the dual lane harpies introduced. As of the way they are right now, I'm not sure how much of an impact it'll be. They're a little bit strong and tanky.
Are you serious? This is torture.
The other thing to note is Totem of Coup is slightly nerfed, so there's a little bit less of a need to be getting that on the solo side. And the last thing that I want to talk about is the consumable and the new ward as well. So there's a new consumable that costs 100 gold, and it basically acts like an old Hand of the God active if you're around during that time. Essentially, it executes a buff and does a lot of damage when it's low, and you can secure your own buff pretty easily, so it kind of hampers invades, gives you a little bit of counterplay for that. And on top of that, also to help with invades is the new ward active you get at level 0. And it places just a free ward, and it lasts for about a minute, and it doesn't give the same vision, but it helps predict and kind of hedge against different types of invades, because you can see enemy supports roaming around, you can see if there's any shenanigans going on. So all in all, it seems like what this means for the support role is you're probably going to be starting a lot more in dual lane, and in my opinion, I think that you'll still want to be picking pressure, kind of like what we saw in Season 5.
Not just yet, but this dual lane is definitely going to be a talking point. His vote got bursted heavily, and here comes NeilMah! Bang! To burst him down for first blood!
The thing about having pressure in this lane is it'll allow you to invade people's purple buffs on respawn. The first spawn is kind of difficult to invade just because they do have that Hand of the Gods active. So for instance, if you're at 20 seconds in the game and the other team's starting here, both ADC and support, and you want to go invade, like you and your ADC, because you have a stronger setup. So red will be us and black will be them. If you go in and you don't have amazing, incredible secure fight, they could just use their active on you, or their relic, or their consumable rather, on you and secure their purple. That's not to say that's necessarily bad, because it still costs the enemy team 100 gold. But it's not a very good use of your time, because then they have their purple buff, the minions are meeting in the lane like so, and then they're up in experience on you because they have their purple XP and you don't have any of this over here. So invading can be a little bit tricky if you don't get it. Something you might see some supports do is have one person start, like the support, try and grief in the purple, and the other ADC, if they're strong, maybe solo their own purple. Once again though, if they have the consumable, it's not necessarily a waste of time, like I said, because they have to spend 100 gold, and that's a consumable slot wasted, but you might see starts like this. It's difficult to say for sure, but I think the most standard thing you'll probably see, if the lanes are pretty even in pressure, is both teams maybe just starting on their own purple. It's pretty consistent, so if you both start your own purple, you both end up in lane kind of when the creeps meet around the same time, and then you kind of fight for pressure like you would in any other season. But in this scenario, pressure still is really impactful in terms of clearing. I guess what I mean by pressure is kill pressure and clear pressure, and if you have both, you're going to see the one lane, say the black lane for instance, the black team has a superior clear pressure. When the second wave comes in, this team will clear faster, they'll hit level 2, and you'll be stuck kind of under your own tower for a lot of the game, and your purple will be kind of subject to duress and being invaded. One important thing to note about this, so we've kind of cleared up that pressure's still really good, there's some counterplay towards invades, and this is probably one of the more consistent starts, is still the jungler, right? Like in Season 5, we saw teams that have pressure, and for instance, like if the black team, if the Chaos side is playing up on your tower line, for instance, and you're level 2 or level 3, this is a pretty common time for junglers to be roaming. A lot of their farm here, and their speed, and the blue will be down, the red will be down. They don't really have much to do. The back harpies will probably be up, so you'll see junglers probably rotate over here. And if you're playing up on the other team's tower line, that's pretty dangerous, right? The enemy jungler, the red team's jungler, can be around this area. And you really do have to be careful for this dynamic. You just have to be kind of wary. The level 1 ward does help with this. You can get a ward out here, but sometimes it's too late to get that ward out, so Something to keep in mind when you're playing this lane stuff if you have more pressure. But all in all, I think this kind of Season 7 meta will be kind of similar to Season 5. We'll definitely have to see how it plays out, because I do think that supports probably won't be tied down to this dual lane throughout the entirety of Season 7. It's just probably what people will start to do until people start figuring out the meta better. But yeah, likely what you'll see is just supports starting in dual lane. There's a lot of farm there. There's a lot of the fact that purple spawns early is pretty important to be there at the beginning of the lane. During the mid game, you'll probably see supports do similar things, because mid camps are still pretty important. Obviously, the buffs like the red and the blue are nowhere near dual lane really, so you'll probably see supports more in mid after the laning phase level 4 or 5. But generally speaking, supports will probably be starting in dual lane. There's a lot of farm to be had. There's a lot of ways you can get punished with the purple buff if the other support doesn't start there, so something to keep in mind. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in to my overview of the Season 7 changes and what that means for support role, and I hope you guys got some good information out of this, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video and learned something new today. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.